So welcome to Wellbeing Wednesdays at the Wool Croft in Abergavenny. It's another one, it's another lockdown edition. I'm here in the shop on my own, the glorious Wool Croft, surrounded by loveliness. And it's nice and quiet in town. So let's all just close our eyes, take a deep breath. And just relax into this present moment as we remember, number one, straight away, our experience of life is only ever happening now. Everything else is a story. Everything else is just chatter that's going on in our heads. All there is here and now. There's nowhere to get to. Literally or figuratively, we've got this hour together. Slow right down. And if there's any work to be done, it's working on number 6. So that we see the world differently. Because the world doesn't really change. And in a way, we don't really change. But it's the way that we see the world that changes. That's interesting, isn't it? The world doesn't really change. There's nothing you can really do about that. You can't change the world, really. It is what it is. And in a way, sure, we're changing constantly, but in a way that we're really in charge of. But when it comes to free will, when it comes to choice, I think, we have the choice to pursue avenues of thought or to leave them alone. And we're more likely to leave them alone when we get a better understanding of how the system works. It's Giles' good idea of the evening anyway. So I'm going to start by reading you something I've written. I've got permission, although it's not been published yet. I've got permission from Hannah at the Abergavenny Focus, or Focus magazines. It goes out to Powys and all sorts, to read my latest piece. Because our experience of life is only ever happening now. And yet, there's the whole sort of planning thing, isn't there? There's the whole looking ahead thing. So I wrote something about it. And this is called Looking Ahead. This month, our eyes are set firmly on the horizon, which sounds like a fine idea to me. Times have been tough. They still are. And there's some comfort to be had in looking ahead to better days. Whether it's the warm embrace of friends and family, a shared cultural event such as a festival or a concert, or holidaying abroad once more, these are all things to look forward to. But in doing so, let's avoid a couple of traps it's easy to fall into. The first can be found in those daydreams above. As much as looking to the future, they're also dwelling in the past. I just want things back to how they were, has been the signature tune of humans since goodness knows when. For the past has a cosy familiarity to it. It seems predictable. We want more of the good old stuff because we know how it feels. Or at least we think we do, until someone brandishing a large pin bursts our bubble by pointing out that the past is no more than a thought that's happening right now. It's a creation, and an unreliable one at that. We are not feeling the past. That is not possible. We are feeling our thoughts about the past now. And that better future we're pinning our hopes on, will it come to pass? It's very unlikely. Sure, we can predict that the sun will rise tomorrow. That's natural laws in action. But the decisions of our leaders and the actions of others, not so much. And how we will feel? Ha, forget it. You can no more predict the shapes of your moods than you can predict the shapes of the clouds. When we labour under the misapprehension that happiness comes from outside of us, it makes total sense to try and plan a set of circumstances that will make us happy. But, and here comes the big pin again, the future is no more than a thought that's happening right now. It's a literal daydream, or daymare, depending on your outlook. We are not feeling the future. That's not possible. We are feeling our thoughts about the future now. So where does this leave us? In the present moment, of course. And what is truly liberating for each and every one of us is not so much working at being more present as seeing that there is nothing else. This means it is only ever now that we can find happiness. It exists nowhere else. Think about it. Right, armed with this knowledge, I'm off to plan a holiday. With love, Giles. So planning, it's fine. It's fine. We've got this ability to project our thoughts into the future. And however we do project our thoughts into the future, we're going to get absolutely rock solid, moment to moment, real-time feedback on what form those thoughts are taking, because we are feeling thought all the time. That's what to be human is. Feeling thought. But it's good to plan, isn't it? And it's nice to look forward to things, but there's something about being aware of how the system works and being aware of what you're doing that I think is just really helpful. It's where your power lies as far as I'm concerned. Because I can think back to the last holiday I took, and honestly, I think I was happier planning it than I actually was on it. Because we can't predict how we're going to feel in any given circumstance. And that's because our feelings don't come from the circumstances. Number 3, 100% of our experience comes via thought in this moment. And that just means that, it takes all the pressure out of everything, really. It takes the pressure out of the situation. And when you see that it's not just like the nice feelings that we have in this present moment, because that's all there is. So the nice feelings that we have when we're thinking about the future, it's exactly the same if we're worried about the future. Those feelings of worry that we might have about, how things are going to turn out, or how our work's going to be, or getting ill or something in the future. Those feelings aren't telling us about the future, because the future is a thought that's happening now. And those feelings of worry and concern and uncertainty are simply telling us that in that very moment, our feelings are taking a worried form, or a concerned form, or an uncertain form. And that's really good to know, because when we get these unpleasant feelings, we've got this beautifully designed, built-in system to let us know what's going on. It's like a little tap on the shoulder, a little light going on the dashboard in your car. It's got one job, and that's to tell you what form your thinking is taking in that current moment. It's not telling you about what might happen in the future, because it doesn't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. And even if we did know exactly what was going to happen in the future, we wouldn't have a clue how we were going to feel about it. I thought, when I was planning my holiday, it was going to be awesome that I was going to get there, and it was going to be la-di-da for the entire 5 days I was there. Made the mistake of taking some work with me, and 3 days in I realised I was miserable, because basically I'd just taken my work from home, and I was, instead of working in a room in England, I was working, in Wales, I was working in a room in France. So planning's great. Planning's useful. You know, you can't just show up and hope to jump on the ferry and hope to find accommodation. No, it's great to plan these things. That's the beauty of our amazing human brains. But just be aware of what's actually going on. Be aware of which tool you're using for which job. It's fair enough to project into the future knowing that you're going to be arriving in France at a particular day, time, and you need to find some accommodation, so book it in advance, super duper. But the whole thing about, you know, how you feel and your mood and your happiness and stuff like that just doesn't work like that at all. It's the wrong tool for the job. You want to be using this. You want to be using your intuition. You want to be using your connection to life. So I wonder how your lockdown weeks have been going. I haven't got any more comments, so you guys, you need to keep the comments coming to let me know that I've not had a technical issue and everything's going all right. So not long after last Wellbeing Wednesday, I lost the plot a little bit. I got to the Friday and I think I may have mentioned last time I was a bit grumpy. I was a bit grumpy in the run up to Wellbeing Wednesdays. Wellbeing Wednesdays is fine. And here's a trick. Here's a technique for you if you're feeling grumpy. Help someone else. Help someone else. Because when we help someone else, we stop thinking about ourselves. And it's only when we're thinking about ourselves that we're ever suffering. So, you know, coming and being with you guys, it's great. You know, I'm not really got much on my mind. Not really thinking about myself until I just said it. Then, self-conscious. But no, at home I was really snappy and short-tempered and wasn't nice at all. And then on Friday I realised I was just so grumpy and so short-tempered. And again, I don't think I'd been listening to I don't think I'd been paying enough attention to my feelings that were telling me I was off course. And when I slowed down enough and took a step back, I realised that I hadn't really left the house in any meaningful way for about 10 days. So I just downed tools and I went out for a 15-mile walk from my door. Last thing I did was grab my head torch. Good job, because I didn't get back till 10:30 at night. It was pitch black. And it was exactly what I needed. Bit of space, bit of time to myself, bit of the outdoors, bit of connecting to nature, bit of slowing down, bit of not having anything to do. So it's great. It was great. I really, for me, that was what I needed. Now, is it always going to be a walk? No, it's not. Sometimes it might be to go for a bike ride. Sometimes it might be to listen to some music. Sometimes it might be to really get stuck into some cooking. Sometimes it might just be to just stop what I'm doing and just sit quietly or read a book or something. Wisdom's always speaking to us. It's always got our backs. Always knows what's best for us. We just need to listen to it. Or go to sleep, that's another one. I'm good at listening to my wisdom to go to sleep. King of the snoozes. Yeah, Jeremy, camping in the garden. Well, we've got the van, you know. We've got the van. It's on the drive outside the front of the house, which is maybe a bit weird. But yeah, there is the opportunity to do that. Camping's not really my thing. I don't know if I even have a tent anymore, Jeremy. So, but yeah, that's the kind of thing, you know, having a little holiday at home, mixing it up. I mean, that walk I went on is practically 2 weeks ago now, and I can still feel it. I can still almost like, here we go. I can project my thoughts into the past, and I can relive that experience that I had when I was out walking, and I can have some really nice feelings. But I know the way it's working. I know that is literally just thought in action. That is me consciously choosing to think about something that happened in the past that I enjoyed and getting a good feeling from it. Just be aware. Right, what's next? I think we've got some questions. We have got some questions. And questions in the comments as well, guys. We have got some questions. Where are they? So, we had a question in the Facebook group from Beth, who asks, given our experience of the world depends on what type of brain we have, i.e. an ant's experience of the world is different to ours, what is reality? I'll read that again. Given our experience of the world depends on what type of brain we have, for example, an ant's experience of the world is different from ours, what is reality? What a great question. Thanks, Beth. Really, really good question. And there's there's reality and there's the experience of reality. And do you know, I think I'm just going to say up front, I don't think we can ever know what reality is. Don't think we can ever know what reality is. There's that quote I read out before, isn't there, from this book, Butterflies Are Our Friends, from the neuroscientist David Eagleman, who said, if you could perceive reality as it really is, you would be shocked by its colourless, odourless, tasteless silence. Outside your brain, there is just energy and matter. Over millions of years of evolution, the human brain has become adept at turning this energy and matter into a rich sensory experience of being in the world. So what he's saying is that reality, true reality, you know, doesn't have any of the characteristics that we think it does. Now, I thought that was a great quote, and I put it out on Twitter, and somebody pointed out very, very quickly that David Eagleman, neuroscientist, has absolutely no more right than anybody else to say what what reality really is like, because he doesn't know either. So I don't think we can ever know. I don't think we can ever know. For all I know, it's all singing, all dancing, completely, you know, it could look like the Matrix, you know, those green numbers coming down the screen for all I know. Because we're not perceiving reality directly. Reality is just like data. And that data goes in through our senses, and then it gets created into our experience of reality, which is why I said, you know, there's reality and there's our experience of reality. And of course, ants have a completely different reality. I mean, here we go. This is textbook number 3. You know, if you ever needed any evidence for number 3, there it is. Ants, dogs, birds. So dogs, I look this up, Beth. Dogs only have 2. We've got 3 colours in our eyes. Dogs have only got 2, so they don't really see red very well. They tend towards yellow and green. Birds have 4, so they see in ultraviolet. So when they look at flowers look completely different to birds. And then there's nocturnal lizards and stuff, and you know, at night time we lose all colour at night time because our rods in our eyes they can only perceive black and white, whereas like there's nocturnal lizards that have got 350 times more sensitive colour sensation at night time, because it makes sense for them to be able to. So there's all these totally different experiences of reality going on in all these different species. And it's funny, isn't it, because we think of reality as what we can see. You know, there's the whole, you know, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. But there's a great quote from I was listening to a bit of Joseph Campbell, who's the guy who coined the hero's journey, and he worked with George Lucas on developing the Star Wars saga. And he was really into mythology and reality and stuff like that. And he says, the coming of the eyes into the general biological picture is very late. Life had already originated hundreds of millions of years before eyes opened and saw what was going on, saw what life was doing. So, you know, reality has existed for millions of years before eyes were even a thing. So we're never going to know what it is. So you've got all these interspecies differences. And then, because 100% of our experience comes via thought in this moment, that's coming in through my senses, just like your experience of reality is coming in through your senses. So our experience of reality is completely different. Like, every single one of us lives in a separate reality, which is a bit mind-bending. But it makes total sense when you think about it. Of course, we're all living in separate realities. You know, okay, so we're all gonna, like, for instance, here is a ball of felted tweed. It's a glorious colour. A dog won't see it the same as we do. Now, when I look at this, me and felted tweed, I don't know much about. I don't really know one end of a ball of wool from the other. That's because they look the same. No, but felted tweed was one of the. You know, I get this really nice feeling whenever I see felted tweed. I mean, it's gorgeous. Even I can see it's absolutely gorgeous wool. But it's the first yarn of Ginevra's that I ever put on the system when we were first setting up the shop, because I put all the stock on the system and created barcodes for everything when they didn't have them. And so I was sat there with all these boxes of wool, and felted tweed was the very first one I put on the system. So my experience of this ball of wool is totally different from yours. Now, somebody who knits is going to have someone who's knitted with felted tweed is going to have a completely different experience of it. So we all live in separate realities. Every single moment of life that comes along, we're getting this constant feed of data, of the little green things going down the screen, if you like, if you want to completely abstract it. And then being human is to create the kind of world that we see around us. But it comes from the inside out. It's being projected outwards. It looks like it's all coming in through our eyes, but it's not really. It's being projected outwards. It's just the data that's coming in. And another neuroscientist, Anil Seth, there's a great. I'll put a link to a TED talk of his. I think it's a TED talk, and he describes. He described it as a controlled hallucination, which is a great way of thinking about it. So we all live in separate realities, and we're all perceiving things differently. And then on another level, there's another level. So this is always multiple levels. On another level. So we've got our interspecies differences, we've got our interpersonal differences, but then we've also got like this intrapersonal difference where we ourselves are never going to perceive the same thing the same, because it's dependent on thought, because 100% of our experience of life comes via thought in this moment, and thought's fickle and fallible, and it's up and it's down and it's all over the shop. Dependent on our mood and what frame of mind we're in and what form thought is taking, we're also going to experience these same items and these same situations differently depending on our mood. And like going back to wool, I've just remembered, like I chuckled to myself not long ago. It was a while ago. It was when it was still cold enough. Well, it was just at the turning point when it was cold enough to wear socks into bed, but then you'd get too hot with socks in bed. And I had cold feet, and I got into bed and I put my socks on, and it was like, oh, this pair of socks is just like the best thing ever, because they're helping keep my feet warm. And then in the morning when I woke up, my feet were like roasting, and the same pair of socks, the socks hadn't changed. The socks hadn't changed at all. I mean, sure, I was warmer because I was under a duvet, but I had a totally different experience of those socks, and it was a real pleasure then taking those socks off again. Silly little example, but everything that we experience, we're going to experience differently within ourselves, dependent on the form that thought is taking in that moment and the feelings that we've got going on. So, what is reality? Well, I don't think we can ever really know what reality is, and being conscious of how we're experiencing reality, for me, is just, the implications. So, interspecies stuff, yeah, whatever. Interpersonal stuff, to see that 100% of our experience comes from thought in the moment, like to really see that, and to really see that we live in separate realities. That means that no other person can ever see something the same way as you, ever. That's relationships sorted right from the very beginning, because surely most of the misunderstandings in relationship come from thinking that the other person in the relationship somehow magically sees things pretty much the same way that you do. When we see that we live in separate realities and that we can't take anything for granted whatsoever, well, that's when we slow down and we really listen, because that's the only way that we're ever going to know how someone else is seeing the world. How well they're seeing this, how well they're seeing these, is by listening. Really properly listening with nothing on our minds, listening without our own, because we're not really going to hear the way the other person is seeing the world if we're perceiving it all through the chatter of our own minds, getting in the way, waiting for our turn to speak, coming up with good ideas, holding on to thoughts, agreeing with what they're saying or disagreeing with what they're saying while they're saying it. We're not listening anymore. That's not what listening is. Listening is listening without any of this. You listen from here. So really appreciating that we live in separate realities just does the world of good for relationships. And then the third level, the whole, well, I'm never going to see things the same way, dependent on my mood. Well, again, like the implications of that are just amazing, because we get these ideas that everything is fixed. We're like, oh, well, work's rubbish or something, you know, or like anytime I'm in that situation, this happens. And that's just not true. That can't be true, because it's coming via thought, and thought is variable. So really understanding that we don't know what reality is, and the way that we do create our own reality, well, that's it. Job done. If you see that, you're winning at life. Just everything gets a lot easier. So, Beth, I hope that answered your question. Let me know in the comments if you're here. Surely horse manure has a fragrance, whether we smell it or not. It emits gases which we and many other species detect. Yeah, but isn't that a common reality? Well, there's going to be some yeah, like there's gases, you know, like this is, you know, there's wood here, there's cardboard here, that's a thing. But what that actually looks like, or feels like, or sounds like in reality, I don't know. I don't know, because I'm not experiencing it directly, and I can't ever experience it directly. So I don't know. I don't know what reality actually looks like. There's no human being on earth who can, and there's no animal on earth who can, because it's all experienced secondhand. It's all created via thought. It's Jeremy's doing all the commenting. Let's move on to a Jeremy question. So, Jeremy asked, I'm catching up on some questions. And guys, send your questions in. Send them in the comments. If you're in the Facebook group, post them in the Facebook group, or email them to doctor@gilespcroft.com, or text me. I think my number's there in the show notes. So send your questions in. I'll talk about anything. It doesn't have to be about these. It doesn't have to be about these. It can just be, because what we're doing here in understanding how we experience the world, and when we understand how we experience the world, that's when we get more in touch with our spiritual essence, if you like. That's when we get more in touch with all of the intangibles. When we can see what's not true, when we can see what's variable, well, then we just get a better feel for what's constant. Then we get a better feel for number 2, the fact that we are well-beings and we lack nothing. And we get a better feel for number 5, that it's not possible to be harmed psychologically. So the more we see the kind of like the way that the system works, the more that we see how the human operating system, the more we understand all of the implications. So it's like, you know, in relationships and stuff. If you understand separate realities, you pretty much understand relationships. So send in any questions about anything. You can refer it all back to this, because this isn't anything to do with techniques. It's not anything to do with excuse me. Went out and did intervals on my bike earlier, and now I'm going to lose my voice. So yeah, you know, this isn't sort of like theory or anything like that. This isn't a philosophy or anything. This is just a description. This is just a description. As far as I can tell, this is the way it works. This is the human operating. What you do with it is entirely up to you, but the more you understand it, the easier life will become. The easier the life of form becomes when you understand the relationship between the world of form and the formless world. Anyway, Jeremy says, one thing you could do next time would be to explain how people can get away from the repetitive thinking that your sister described, which happened the other week. One thing you could do next time would be to explain how people can get away from repetitive thinking. So this is a bit number 4, isn't it? This is a bit our bodies and minds are always striving to bring us back into balance. Because the more we see number 4, the more we see all we have to do is nothing. I haven't got my snow globe. I left my snow globe at home, people. Because to let the snow settle in a snow globe, you stop shaking it. That's all. Anyway, I've got a couple of readings for you on this very topic, because I know that it can be really frustrating to hear smart arse like me say, "Oh, do nothing," because it's like, well, what use is that? I have been doing nothing and nothing's changed. Well, have you been doing nothing? We shall see. So this is from a book called Coming Home by Dickon Bettinger and Natasha Swerdloff. And it's a nice format. They're very, very short chapters. It's not a big book. And then it's got a whole bunch of real life questions about these principles. And one of the questions is, can I keep myself from getting caught up in my thinking? Which I think is kind of what Jeremy was asking. And they say, even as your understanding deepens, you will still get caught up at times. Everyone does. The difference is that with understanding, you become more comfortable with being caught up. You just get better at being relaxed about it and waiting until your thought storm goes away. You continue to have more trust that it will go away and that wisdom will break through. You don't have to do anything. And look, the strapline for Wellbeing Wednesdays is, to experience well-being, there is nothing to do, only something to see. There begins to be a certainty that it will go away, a certainty that you already have well-being built into you, and a certainty that a single thought or change in perception can change how you feel. The more you realise that you already have within you what you are looking for, the more you can relax into yourself just the way you are, even if you're caught up. It's so helpful when your feelings keep reminding you of the truth of the principle of thought. It's so helpful when your feelings keep reminding you of the truth of the principle of thought. And then there's a quote here from Sid Banks. How can we stop negative, unwanted thoughts from entering our heads? We can't. They come too fast, and if you try, you will soon find you are on a fool's mission. What you can do, however, is realise that your own thoughts have no power of their own, only that which you give them. However, if you can see that they are only thoughts and you refuse to put life into them, they are harmless. So getting away from repetitive thinking is a case of letting repetitive thinking go. Is really understanding that we have this inbuilt psychological immune system that brings us back into balance. It's really embodying number 4. Our bodies and minds are always striving to bring us back into balance. When we trust that, and look guys, we've got the evidence all the time. all day, every day. We see it in action. I don't know why we don't believe it. I think it's, you know, when we're caught up in it, like by the nature of being caught up in it, thinking looks real. We just believe it. Well, don't believe your thinking in a low mood. So that leads me swiftly on to the next bit of reading, which is from my new favourite book. My new favourite book. That should be on the perspective at schools. It really should. Richard Carlson. You can be happy no matter what. And I can't believe that I missed this one when I was in my Richard Carlson phase back in the day. So this was written originally in 1992. This copy I've got in my hand is from 1997. And it's just so rammed full of common sense. He talks about, I think he got into a little bit of trouble because he came from the 3 Principles community, and then he releases a book that has 5 principles in it. So, and look, here's me with six psychological facts. So there we go. But this book has the principle of thought, the principle of moods, the principle of separate realities, the principle of feelings, the principle of the present moment. So very, very much mirrors. Can't believe I only just found this. Anyway, he's talking about healthy psychological function, which is this, okay? This is number 2, we are well-beings and we lack nothing. And he's talking about healthy psychological functioning. And he says, and this first sentence is an important one, he says, there is no magic or mystery to healthy psychological functioning. Okay? Stop looking for magic and mystery, because you ain't going to find it. Right? It's as normal as it gets. It's always present when we aren't engaged in our habitual thought system. So you're either in your thought system or you're in your healthy psychological functioning. It's as simple as that. End of. Close book. Healthy functioning is the feeling we experience when little, if anything, is on our minds. A positive feeling state that exists for no apparent reason. Children possess this state of mind frequently, experiencing life simply, without putting too much negative thought into it. When they do experience negativity or frustration, they are able to let it go quickly and return to their natural state of happiness. And Jeremy, I know you've got a young daughter, and when she gets cross, she will get fully cross. She won't hold back, because my daughter doesn't either. She'll feel those emotions 100%. They'll absolutely take her over. But she's not scared by them, and she doesn't think that it means anything about her or anything like that, because kids just don't. They just get on with it. They experience the emotions. They know that the emotions themselves can't hurt them. Number 5, it is not possible to be harmed psychologically. And they get on with it. They know that their bodies and minds are always striving to bring them back into balance. So we've all experienced healthy functioning countless times since we were children. Perhaps it happened while you were sitting in front of a fireplace, taking a walk, or looking at a beautiful sunset. Healthy functioning is present whenever you feel wonderful for no particular reason. The important point is that the fireplace, all the activity, all the holiday, didn't cause your good feeling. What happened was that you temporarily relaxed, cleared your mind of concerns, and simply took a few moments to enjoy your life. If you think you need a fireplace or a particular activity to clear your mind, you'll be able to relax and be contented only in certain circumstances. Once you understand that it's yourself, not the fire or the sunset, that is producing the positive feelings inside, you can clear your mind at will. It becomes easier as you practice it, I promise you. And I don't really think you have to practice. I think number 6, you know, you guys are here watching Wellbeing Wednesdays, so you're working on your number 6. What makes sense to you will slowly but surely change just as you become more aware of numbers 1 through 5. That's all. Healthy functioning doesn't depend on our circumstances. We all have access to healthy functioning whenever we want it, once we know that it exists independent of our circumstances. This knowledge allows us to feel good even when things aren't going well. As long as our minds aren't focused on our concerns, all the problems we're making up in our heads, we will remain in healthy functioning and maintain our sense of well-being. In this positive feeling state, we will be equipped to deal effectively with any aspect of our lives. So, like, this isn't denial. This isn't like saying, oh, I'm gonna ignore that and hope it goes away, because these things, you know, if there's something that needs dealing with, it's not going to go away. The difference is you're not going to come up with the solutions in a low mood. You're not going to come up with the solutions from here. The solutions don't exist here. Problems that we're constantly churning away at, that we're constantly thinking, oh, I just need to think a bit harder about this, and I'm going to come up with a solution. It doesn't work like that. That's getting in the way of the solutions. The solutions come to us by insight when we fall out of this and back into this, into our healthy psychological functioning. The moment our mind shifts out of our positive feeling state and back into our thought system, which will remind us of our concerns, we lose our sense of well-being and again see life as a series of problems to overcome. Your feelings are the barometer that tell you whether you are experiencing life from your thought system or from your natural state of mind. If you are feeling depressed, angry or frustrated, these feelings tell you that your thinking is dysfunctional, that you are not experiencing life as it could be lived. Drop whatever you're thinking, ignore the static, and make the mental adjustment to clear your head. Shift gears from your computer mode to your transmitter mode, from your thought system to your healthy functioning. Remember, you are only one thought away from a good feeling. Guys, you've got to get this book and read it. Richard Carlson, You Can Be Happy No Matter What. You can get second-hand copy for £1, and it's on audio as well. I've got it on audiobook, and you can get it on Kindle, so you've got no excuses. It's your homework. Read this book before next time. I'm going to go to the comments. What we got here? Good old Sid. Yeah. Oh, hello Diane. That's no worries. Yeah, about not giving them life. Yeah, honestly, it's... I heard somebody sort of kind of like commenting on this whole malarkey, this whole people like me, you know, teaching people about this stuff, and there was a seminar or something, and whoever was delivering the seminar, I think there were a pair of people, and one person had gone into like a whole load of detail and was really trying to explain things. Something I'm guilty of, I know. And had kind of like lost the audience a little bit. And the other person came up and said, look, that's all well and good, but forget all that. Basically, if you're in a low mood, just don't make any decisions. Don't take your thinking seriously when you're in a low mood, because that's all this. Wait for it to pass and make your decisions when you're in a better mood. And it's as simple as that. You know, in terms of a way forward, that's a pretty good one. So that book is just full of common sense advice like that. How are we doing for time? We're nearly there. I want to read you one more thing and it's kind of like puts what we're doing here into context. Okay, this is from Nicola Bird. It's from her book. I was scanning my books for inspiration the other day for my course, and I came across this, and I'd forgotten how good it is, because it describes what we're doing here. It describes this number 6, really, that all we're really doing is we're getting a better appreciation for how the system already works. And when we have a better appreciation for how the system already works, and we have some insights about that out in normal life, that's when they normally happen. When you're not thinking about it, that's when it happens. When we have some insights about this, all it does is it just completely changes our perspective. So instead of looking at something from that direction, we're looking at it from that direction. It hasn't changed, but we can see it completely differently. Okay, so that's what we're doing here. And there's the most beautiful metaphor from Nicola that I want to read to you, all about hopping. Apologies if you've already heard this one. But this is from Nicola's book, A Little Peace of Mind. Again, a wonderful book, very good. Her thing is anxiety. So this is a section that says learning to walk. And she says, this is how change happens. Okay, this is what we're doing here, guys. This is the change that we're talking about in Wellbeing Wednesdays. Imagine you only have one leg. Let's say it's the right leg. So hopping is what you do to get around, obviously. You learned all about hopping in school. In fact, you had to attend loads of classes on the subject, and you got pretty good at it. You hopped to work, you hopped down the aisle, you hopped to the park with your kids. It was pretty hard physically, but really, what choice did you have when you only had one leg? The answer was to get fitter so you could hop faster. As you got older, you started to feel like your hopping wasn't working out so well for you. You didn't seem to be doing as well as other people, and something seemed to be missing. So you bought a book on how to hop better, and you learned a whole heap of hopping exercises that seemed to help a little, but only if you remembered to do them every day. The key seemed to be getting the game of hopping right, so you went to see hopping specialists, and you bought all the latest books, because if you could just hop a little faster, then you could relax and enjoy life. Then, one day, you meet someone who says something strange. Do you see you have a left leg? You take a quick look. No, I can't see one, you reply. But I'm an expert on hopping and how it works. That's what I'm interested in. Do you know how I can hop faster? Then you take a closer look at the person in front of you. Sure enough, they seem to have an additional leg. They seem to have something that you don't. And they're not hopping. They're just walking. They point again to you. You have a left leg, can't you see? It seems really obvious to them, but you can't see it. No, I really can't, but I'm fascinated by the fact that you keep saying this, and you seem to be doing this walking thing. Can you teach me how to walk, even though I only have one leg? Well, it doesn't really work that way, but why don't we keep talking? And something keeps you showing up at the door of this strange two-legged person. They tell you stories, they keep pointing at this mythical left leg, and then one day you look down and you see you have a left leg too. You see it for yourself. In just 1 second, with that simple insight, you realise you were born with a left leg. It's always been there. It's never gone anywhere. You'd just fallen asleep to the fact it was there. And in that moment, you take a step, and another, and another. You don't hop. Why would you? You've realised what's always been available to you, and it's changed everything. I get goosebumps when I read that. Because that's how change works. Through having insights about the way that we already work, about our left leg that's always been there. We always have our innate health, we always have our wisdom. It never goes anywhere. We came into this world with everything, and it doesn't get taken away. It stays with us. It just gets covered up by a bunch of thinking, that's all. So I'm going to finish with a Hafiz. I have pre-selected one. Before I do, I'm going to ask for my weekly favour. So you guys, you love Wellbeing Wednesdays, you're here, you come every week. Will you please get one person to sign up to Wellbeing Wednesdays? That's all I'm asking. If all of you get one other person to sign up to Wellbeing Wednesdays so that we can double our audience. Brilliant, thanks. So here's Hafiz. And as always, he's talking about this. He calls it God. And this is about how we've all got left legs, okay? This isn't, like some of us do and some of us don't, and some of us are disadvantaged and others aren't. No. This is just the way it is. As far as I can see, this is just the way it is. This is the way we work. Don't take my word for it. Go out there and find your own evidence, okay? But what he's saying in this poem is that we all work in exactly the same way. There is a wonderful game. There is a game we should play, and it goes like this. We hold hands and look into each other's eyes and scan each other's face. Then I say, now tell me a difference you see between us. And you might respond, Hafiz, your nose is 10 times bigger than mine. And I would say, yes, my dear, almost 10 times. But let's keep playing. Let's go deeper. Go deeper. For if we do, our spirits will embrace and interweave. Our union will be so glorious that even God will not be able to tell us apart. There is a wonderful game we should play with everyone, and it goes like this. Thanks for coming along, everybody. It's a pleasure as always. See you all in a fortnight. Keep looking for those left legs of yours that are always there. Love you all. Bye-bye.